Thank you for taking the time to listen to this CD. This is the story about an unexpected discovery that led to the development of an amazing technology that has changed the health of millions of people around the world for the past 40 years. If you believe that your health is your choice, and, like millions of other Americans, you are seeking safe, natural ways to prevent disease and realize true health, then the story of this breakthrough discovery will be of great interest to you, and we hope will be of great benefit to you and your family. Although you may be hearing about this for the first time, as you will learn, many of the world's leading health professionals consider this discovery to be a major breakthrough in the prevention of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and virtually all degenerative diseases. This is not about the latest herb or exotic fruit or health tonic. This is about something so basic and simple it may surprise you. The information you will hear on this CD is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice or as a substitute for the consultation, diagnosis, or medical treatment by a qualified physician or healthcare provider. This discovery is great news, as it comes at a time when there is an alarming increase in chronic disease in America. In a report by the U.S. National Research Council and Institute of Medicine, it states Americans die younger and experience more illness than people in other rich nations, despite spending almost twice as much per person on healthcare. And most of the healthcare dollars are spent in the last 90 days of life. For millions of Americans, this means they're in a hospital, on all kinds of medication, hooked up to tubes and machines, with little or no hope of ever regaining their health. It means that we are spending our money primarily on our death instead of on our life. The UN now ranks America 38th in healthcare and life expectancy of all the countries in the world. Every 22 seconds, someone has a heart attack. Every 60 seconds, someone is diagnosed with diabetes. 1 in 3 Americans is currently at risk for getting cancer. A few decades ago, we hardly heard about diseases like autism and Alzheimer's. Now they're in the news all the time. Our children are getting adult diseases like diabetes and heart disease. Nearly 1 in 5 teenagers are addicted to prescription painkillers. That's 4.5 million American children, and over 13,000 babies every year are born addicted to narcotic drugs. The story began about 60 years ago when researchers started visiting a few countries around the world to see if they could learn why people living in these countries were enjoying such amazing health when the rest of the world was getting sicker. One of these places is a little country in the Himalayan mountains called Hunza. In 1968, Dr. J. Hoffman was sent there by the National Geriatric Society and published a book called Hunza, Secrets of the World's Healthiest and Oldest Living People. He wrote, "Here is a land where people do not have our common diseases, such as cancer, heart disease, arthritis, diabetes, and many other ailments that plague the rest of the world. Here the people live to be 100, 110, 120, and occasionally as much as 140 years of age." Cardiologists Paul White and Edward Toomey also went to Hunza. Using a battery-operated electrocardiograph, they studied 25 Hunza men between 90 and 110 years of age and reported in the American Heart Journal that not one of these men showed a single sign of coronary heart disease or high blood pressure. Other visitors reported seeing women at 80 who looked no older than North American women of 50. The environments and diets of the people in these countries were all different, but unexpectedly the researchers discovered there was one thing they all had in common. The water they drink is uncontaminated and still has its original molecular structure. This six-sided or hexagonal structure is the natural biological form of water. It is consistent with the fluids in our body, which are made up of six-sided water clusters. Babies are born with 100% six-sided water clusters. The natural water in vegetable tissues is six-sided, which is one reason why they're so healthy for us. We know that all of life depends on water. Our Earth's surface is 75% water, and our bodies are 75% water. And the discoveries made about the properties of hexagonal water have revealed exactly why water, as it is found in nature, is absolutely essential for health. Until these discoveries were made, scientists had been forming their opinions about which type of water was best based only on the purity of the water, not the molecular configuration. But water can configure itself into five-sided or pentagonal forms, which are not in harmony with the fluids of the body, and biologists have found that high concentrations of five-sided water clusters are common in people with compromised immune systems. A third type of molecular arrangement is one with a completely random structure. This is the type that is commonly found in tap water, including both well and city water. This random type is the least desirable to drink for cellular hydration, cellular communication, cellular detoxification, and nutrient and oxygen transport. One of the miraculous properties of water is its ability to return to its natural structure. It does this when it vaporizes and condenses and then falls to earth as rain or snow. This is why snowflakes are always six-sided. They still have their original structure until they melt and are subjected to all the contaminants in our environment. One of the world's foremost authorities on the structure of water is Dr. Mu-Shik John. He is the recipient of over 30 honors and awards and has spoken at over 250 scientific gatherings. In his book, The Water Puzzle and the Hexagonal Key, he explains, "Hexagonal water is the water of life. All biological organisms prefer it. On the other hand, loss of hexagonal water from our bodies can be correlated with disease, lack of vitality, and aging. The more structured hexagonal water in the body, the healthier you will be." Unfortunately, the water we've been drinking, whether it's tap water, bottled water, or filtered water, no longer has this natural molecular structure, so we have not been getting the crucial benefits our bodies require that only water as it is found in nature can provide. And this absence of hexagonal water is one of the key factors for the huge increase in chronic disease. This has been clearly shown because when people simply switch from whatever kind of water they had been drinking to hexagonal water, they experience significant and often remarkable health improvements. The discoveries made about hexagonal water were a major breakthrough, but there was a problem. Hexagonal water is only found in a few natural environments where the water has not become contaminated and distorted. And because it is living, energized water, it has to be consumed fresh. It can't be bottled and shipped around the world. So the challenge was to see if there was some way to restore the original hexagonal structure to ordinary tap water. Japanese and Russian scientists found that by passing water over electrically charged metal plates, tap water could be restructured and restored back to its original hexagonal structure, with its vitally important properties. Now, because of this amazing technology, hexagonal water is available to all of us right from our kitchen faucet. This was the birth of what is known as ionized water. The first ionizers were introduced in hospitals in Japan 40 years ago. They are now in many of the leading hospitals, in 1/5 of the homes, and thousands of restaurants throughout Japan. The health benefits have been so remarkable, the Japanese call it miracle water. The UN now ranks Japan the #1 country in healthcare and life expectancy in the world. Ionized water is getting a great deal of attention from biologists and health professionals around the world. Dr. William Kelly, College of Metabolic Medicine and author of Cancer Cure, says, "Water produced by a water ionizer has become the most important advancement in healthcare since Sir Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin. Dr. David Dyer, health and cancer coach, says, "If someone were to ask me, what is the one thing I can do to have better health? The answer would be very simple. Start drinking alkalinized and ionized water. When you drink ionized water, you're bathing and feeding the cells. In 5 years or less, ionizers will not only be an option, but a necessary component in everyday living." Peggy Parker, a naturopathic doctor who is considered to be one of the world's leading experts on ionized water, states, "I believe that drinking ionized water is the key to creating, regaining, and maintaining a healthy body. I would even go so far as to say that in my medical practice, I have never seen any drug, vitamin, mineral, or tonic that could create the results that ionized water produces in just a few weeks." Felicia Drury Clement, author of The Acid-Alkaline Balance Diet, and adjunct professor at City College, New York, states, "After years of very positive continuous clinical experiments, I have conducted with hundreds of clients using electronically restructured alkaline water. It is my opinion that this technology will change the way in which all health providers and the public will approach their health in the coming years." The reason so many health professionals are urging us to drink ionized water is because they now agree that all disease, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, whatever names they have, all have the same underlying causes, and the properties of ionized water directly address these causes at the deepest level, the trillions of cells that make up all the organs and systems of our bodies. Before I explain how ionized water does this, I want to touch on two of the main reasons for the huge increase in chronic disease in America. One reason is that for about the past 100 years, modern medicine has been focused on diagnosing and treating the symptoms of disease instead of the root causes. The symptoms have been treated primarily with drugs. Identifying and preventing the actual causes of the disease has been virtually ignored. But all that is changing. People are taking charge of their own health. We're becoming educated and choosing safe, natural ways to prevent disease. We're not waiting until we are suddenly rushed off to the hospital with chest pains, or go to our doctor and be told the devastating news we have cancer or some other terrible disease. This shift to prevention and wellness is not an alternative or complementary approach, as if it's second best. It is now the primary approach to health for millions of Americans. Thomas Edison, who was a great student of health matters, said over 100 years ago, "The doctor of the future will no longer be engaged to patch up the sick man, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." We do have a choice. We can take charge of our own health and have a good quality of life now and as we grow older. A recent study at UCLA said, baby boomers face more health problems than their parents. One reason is that our parents were not subjected to the tremendous amount of toxins we're now exposed to. There are currently over 85,000 chemicals in the market. Every year, 1,000 new chemicals are introduced, and the law does not require any pre-market safety testing for any of these chemicals. The EPA has to prove that a chemical is unsafe before it can be banned. But how can they be proven to be unsafe if pre-testing is not required? So, the EPA has approved over 350 pesticides in our food, and amazingly, only 0.1% of these chemicals actually reaches the intended pests. The rest gets washed off and contaminates the plants and the water. It is toxic to fish, birds, honeybees, and mammals, including us, of course. With 99.99% of the chemicals being washed off, No wonder over 1 billion pounds of pesticides are used every year in America. Certain foods, such as berries, really absorb these chemicals. Blueberries are one of the healthiest foods we can eat, rich in vitamin C and antioxidants. However, commercially grown blueberries have tested positive for over 40 different chemicals. In a few minutes, I'm going to explain how ionized water has the unique ability to flush these toxins from our cells, and also how it can remove these toxic chemicals from blueberries and all our fruits and vegetables before we eat them. Refined sugar and chemicals in our food are things we can reduce or eliminate from our diet, but one source of toxins we can't avoid is in the air. The air is filled with electrically charged particles called ions. There are negative ions and positive ions. Negative ions are naturally found in our environment and make us feel good, like when we're at the beach or we breathe the air right after a rainstorm. Positive ions are unstable molecules that create an electrical imbalance in our bodies and are very harmful to us. As Dr. Oz, MD, known for his appearances on The Oprah Winfrey Show and The Dr. Oz Show on ABC television, explains, your body's cells naturally contain a negative charge. Meanwhile, irritating elements in the environment, dust, microbes, and pet dander, for example, tend to have a positive charge. Like a magnet, opposites attract, and your body literally pulls these irritating elements in toward itself, causing harm. And the potentially scary thing is that common household and workplace objects like cell phones and computers constantly emit positive ions. Exhaust from cars, trucks, airplanes, and factories pump tons of positive ions into the air. Even electric blankets emit positive ions. Our food and water also harbor positive ions in the form of pesticides and other toxins. We're virtually swimming in an ocean of this electrical pollution. In fact, it's become such a big problem in the workplace. Air conditioner manufacturers are designing new systems that increase negative ionization. ABC is equipping its new 30-story headquarters in New York with ion control. We don't see positive ions, but we feel their effects, like when you feel lethargic after being under fluorescent lighting or being near computers or machinery. Positive ions cause our cells to become weak, and we tend to get sick more easily and age faster. One of the most harmful forms of positive ions is oxidation. We hear about the need for antioxidants all the time. In a few minutes, I'm going to explain how ionized water is the most effective way to prevent the destructive effects of oxidation on our cells. One of the biggest causes of toxic effects in our bodies comes from refined sugar, and one of the biggest sources of refined sugar is soda. Dr. Sarah Thayer, Director of Pancreatic Cancer Research at Massachusetts General Hospital, says that drinking just 2 sodas a week can increase your chances of developing pancreatic cancer by 87%. This is because of the extreme stress placed on the pancreas after consuming liquid sugars. Kidney stones are also associated with high sugar intake. Soda is one of the biggest reasons for the huge increase in obesity among children, and why so many children are getting adult diseases. 60% of current adolescents are expected to enter adulthood with at least 2 risk factors for heart disease. And sadly, instead of addressing the causes behind this problem, such as sugar, many of these children are being put on blood pressure medication even before they are teenagers. When the health problems associated with refined sugar became well known, the beverage companies introduced diet soda, claiming that sugar-free drinks would help people lose weight. But study after study have shown that people who drink diet sodas on a regular basis actually gain weight and are at a much greater risk for getting diabetes. One study showed that drinking just one 12-ounce can of diet soda per week can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes by 33%. One of the biggest problems with diet soda is that the artificial sweeteners are highly addictive chemicals. They produce endorphins in the brain that make people feel high, and as with any drug, more and more is needed to get the same kick, and people become addicted to these beverages. These chemicals have sweet-sounding names, but they contain very toxic ingredients. Two chemicals in particular that are added to diet soda, as well as sports and energy drinks, are extremely dangerous. One is aspartame, which has been linked to MS, diabetes, fibromyalgia, Alzheimer's, chronic fatigue, heart disease, osteoporosis, kidney stones, and even cancer. One of the ingredients in aspartame is methanol, also known as wood alcohol, which is a deadly poison. The other toxic chemical is brominated vegetable oil, or BVO. BVO is in Gatorade, Mountain Dew, Squirt, Fanta Orange, Sunkist Pineapple, and many others. BVO is used to keep the flavors in citrus drinks from separating so it looks better. Bromine was first patented by chemical companies as a flame retardant and is used in fabrics, carpets, upholstery, and mattresses. It's also used in pesticides, such as methyl bromide, which is used on strawberries. The problem is that bromines are endocrine disruptors and compete for the same receptors that are used to capture iodine. If you are exposed to a lot of bromine, your body will not hold on to the iodine it needs. The resulting iodine deficiency affects every tissue in your body, and particularly the thyroid gland, and can lead to increased risk for cancer of the breast, thyroid gland, ovary, and prostate. Bromine is so harmful, it has been banned in over 100 countries, and even the FDA considers this additive as unsafe. Yet, so far, no measures have been taken to ban its usage here in America. However, at the time of making this CD, as the result of public outcry, Pepsi and Coke are now removing BVO from their products. Unfortunately, millions of people are simply not aware of the dangers of these chemicals, so they keep drinking diet soda believing it's better for them than sugary soda. And, of course, celebrities and sports professionals get paid millions of dollars to endorse soda, diet soda, and sports and energy drinks. There is one other source of toxins I want to mention because they affect so many people: prescription drugs. Americans are the most medicated people in the world. In 2012, doctors wrote over 4 billion prescriptions. Dr. Marcia Angel, former editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, said, "We are taking way too many drugs for dubious or exaggerated ailments. What the drug companies are doing now is promoting drugs for long-term use to essentially healthy people." Those 4 billion prescriptions earned the top drug companies nearly $85 billion in net profits. That's for 1 year. Prescription drug pricing in the US is unregulated, so drug companies can charge whatever they want. This is when getting sick really starts to get expensive. 11 of the 12 new drugs approved by the FDA last year were priced over $100,000 per patient per year. The drug companies say these huge prices are needed for research and development, but studies have shown more than twice as much is spent on advertising than on research. The biggest problem is that drugs do not address the actual causes of disease, which is one of the reasons why millions of people spend their last 90 days of life in a hospital with little or no chance of regaining their health. Since the causes of the disease are not being diagnosed or addressed, they cannot be corrected. And because drugs are made of synthetic chemicals, they can have toxic side effects. Every year, over 700,000 people are rushed to the emergency room because of a bad reaction to their medication. Over 2 million adverse drug reactions happen among hospitalized patients and cause over 100,000 deaths, not from the illness, but from the drugs. In fact, adverse drug reactions are actually the fourth leading cause of death in America after cancer, heart attack, and stroke. The drug companies are required to warn us of the potential dangers of these drugs, but the way they're read, with soothing music playing in the background and happy images on the screen, leave a positive impression on people's minds. This minimizes the serious dangers of these drugs, and the warnings become almost irrelevant. Some commercials say get medical help right away if you develop symptoms such as unusual lumps or growths, swollen or painful abdomen, unexplained weight loss, persistent fever or night sweats. Medical help? Wasn't I supposed to be getting medical help when this drug was prescribed? All these chemicals, from pesticides, herbicides, food additives, medications, and other environmental sources, build up in our cells and become a root cause for all kinds of illnesses. Studies have now shown that microtoxins that collect in the cells of the brain are considered to be one of the underlying causes of autism, attention deficit disorder, Alzheimer's, Asperger's, and other brain disorders. These toxins increase brain inflammation and interfere with the proper chemistry and functioning of the brain. Dr. Corinne Allen, an international researcher and practitioner in natural health and nutrition for over 30 years, is a leading expert on how to affect brain, learning, and behavior problems without drugs. When she introduced ionized water into her therapies, children and adults with these disorders had significant improvements. If we want to be healthy, we have to reduce our intake of chemicals as much as possible. But we can't avoid them completely, so we have to flush them out of our cells every day, so they don't have a chance to break down the cells and develop into disease. As I'm going to explain, flushing toxins out of the cells is one of the wonderful benefits of ionized water. So let's see exactly how ionized water does this, and how it prevents 4 of the primary causes of all degenerative disease. The first root cause of illness ionized water addresses is dehydration. We hear about how important it is to be hydrated, but most people are chronically dehydrated and don't even know it. This is why dehydration has been called an unseen epidemic. Most people wait until they feel thirsty to drink water, but at that point they are already 40% dehydrated. And often it's not water they drink, they end up drinking a sugar soda or coffee or a so-called energy drink. Not only do these drinks not hydrate the body properly, in many cases they actually increase dehydration. One of the world's foremost authorities in the field of water for health is Dr. Feridun Batmanglij, a medical doctor who spent 20 years researching dehydration at the molecular level and used water as a medication with over 3,000 patients. He is the author of numerous books, including Your Body's Many Cries for Water. He explains, doctors are taught to focus on the solid particles in the body, and water is usually taken for granted. I have explained scientifically at the molecular level that it is water that energizes and activates the solid matter, and when the system is depleted in water, disease symptoms appear. Many people don't recognize that feeling tired, having muscle aches and joint pain, heartburn, migraine headaches, fibromyalgia, constipation are all symptoms of dehydration. So is high blood pressure. The blood is 85% water. When we don't have enough water, our cells start to draw water from the bloodstream. This makes the blood get sludgy, which raises blood pressure and makes the heart work harder. This sludginess increases the risk of blood clots and stroke. Dehydration is also one of the main causes of weight gain. When the body is deprived of water, the ability of the kidneys to purify blood is affected. This causes the liver to become stressed, and it cannot metabolize fat efficiently, and that leads to excess fat being stored in the body. Often, when a person is dehydrated, their body mistakes thirst for hunger, so they reach for a candy bar, but their body is really crying out for water. Mild dehydration of only 2% can cause a 20% reduction of a child's mental and physical performance. Morning sickness is also a sign of dehydration. Dehydration is also a major factor in premature aging. Infants are approximately 80% water, but as we age, if we're not well hydrated, the level of water in our bodies can drop to below 50%. As Dr. John explains, water and aging are directly related, and it has been shown that the water content of the body decreases with age, producing a visible wrinkling and withering effect. Keep in mind that the outward signs of aging are just an indicator of what is also happening on the inside of the body.
One of the biggest reasons people are dehydrated, even when they drink plenty of water, is that the kind of water they're drinking is not getting into their cells. There was a recent cover story in First for Women magazine called The Water Cure that said, "New study, 90% of American women are clinically dehydrated no matter how much water they drink." Both tap and bottled water are not hydrating for several reasons. Tap water has been shown to have over 300 contaminants, including chlorine and fluoride, which have been linked to a variety of cancers. Antibiotics, antidepressants, and other pharmaceutical drugs, heavy metals, and even rocket fuel. The list goes on and on. Filtering removes some of these contaminants, but some filters actually cause health problems. Reverse osmosis became popular because it is very effective for removing contaminants. The problem is that it also removes the minerals from the water. Minerals are a natural part of water. They give water its alkalinity, and when they are removed, the water becomes acidic. Like everything in nature, water wants to return to its natural balanced state to be more alkaline. And the only way it can do this in our bodies is to leach out alkaline minerals from our bones like calcium. Osteoporosis is when the bones become porous from mineral loss. This leads to bone weakness, which increases the risk of fractures. Over 800,000 people have hip or knee replacements every year. Acidic water is an underlying cause of osteoporosis and arthritis. Even if we get a lot of minerals from food and supplements, if we're drinking acidic water, it is still going to have this harmful effect on our bones. In a report by the World Health Organization, it stated that over-filtered water doubles the risk of high blood pressure and heart attack, and it specifically mentions modern water purification systems in the United States as a problem. So, tap water and filtered water are not able to provide the hydration our bodies need. As the issue of contamination became known, the beverage companies saw a huge marketing opportunity and launched a negative campaign against tap water. They advertised that their bottled water came from natural sources, with images of pristine mountains and streams on their labels. They manufactured a perceived need for bottled water, and it worked. In 2012, Americans spent over $11 billion on bottled water. The fact is that almost half of bottled water is actually filtered tap water, and the filtration that's often used is reverse osmosis, which is one reason bottled water is so acidic. Bottled water is also virtually unregulated and may legally contain all kinds of toxins. In a city of over 1 million, municipalities test tap water 300 times per month and are required to submit these reports to the FDA. Bottled water manufacturers do their own tests on their own sources, and they are not required to submit these reports to the FDA. Only one person at the FDA is responsible for overseeing bottled water regulations. A 4-year study by the National Resources Defense Council in 1999 found that 1/5 of the sampled bottled waters contain known neurotoxins and carcinogens. In another study, out of 103 brands of bottled water, they found 1/3 contained traces of arsenic and E. coli. This means that out of a sample of 1,000 bottles sold in the US, At least 300 of them would have some level of chemical contamination. But it's not just the water that's harmful. The water sits stagnant in a warehouse or on a truck or on the shelf in a store for weeks or even months, in plastic bottles that contain toxins that leach into the water. Paraxylene is a chemical essential to the process of manufacturing plastic bottles. It causes damage to abdominal organs and the nervous system. In Corpus Christi, Texas, where paraxylene is made in a petrochemical plant, birth defects are 84% higher than the state average. One of the most toxic chemicals that leaches into the water from plastic bottles is bisphenol A, or BPA. BPA is a hormone-disrupting chemical that is especially harmful to pregnant women, babies, and children, and has been linked to breast cancer, prostate cancer, diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. BPA is so toxic it is banned in many countries, including China, Canada, France, Denmark, and the European Union. Our FDA says there isn't enough scientific information to ban BPA. The National Institutes of Health reviewed over 700 peer-reviewed studies on BPA, but the FDA only reviewed 2 studies, which were conducted by bottled water companies. Plastic water bottles are also an environmental disaster. The Earth Policy Institute estimates that the energy used to pump, process, transport, and refrigerate bottled water is over 715 million barrels of oil annually. If you were to fill 1/4 of a plastic water bottle with oil, you would be looking at roughly the amount used to produce that bottle. Only about 13% of plastic water bottles are recycled. Of 80 million single-serving plastic bottles used daily, 30 million end up in landfills. Altogether, approximately 2 million tons of water bottles end up in landfills. Plastic bottles take centuries to decompose, and if they are incinerated, toxic byproducts such as chlorine gas and ash containing heavy metals are released into the air. Every day, the major bottled water companies, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Nestle, pump thousands of gallons of water from the earth, filter it, bottle it, and sell it back to us under various brand names for huge profits. Plastic water bottles make up a large part of the garbage patch of discarded plastic that is swirling in the Pacific Ocean just a few hundred miles off the coast of Hawaii. This enormous plastic stew is twice the size of Texas and is growing rapidly. In 1999, the Western Pacific garbage patch had 6 times the amount of plastic compared to plankton. In 2008, that jumped to 46 times. The plastic does not biodegrade, but it does break up into tiny pieces which the fish and birds eat. You can see this on YouTube. Just Google plastic ocean. And if you want to learn more about all the harm that bottled water is causing, you can watch a documentary called Tapped. It's free to watch online. So, we have the problem of contamination and overfiltration of tap water, and all the health and environmental problems of bottled water, as well as a huge expense. The great news is that ionized water solves all of these problems. When water goes into the ionizer, it is first filtered to remove contaminants, but it is not overfiltered, so the minerals are still in the water. Then the water is restructured so that the water is microclustered. This means the water molecules are reduced to about 1/6 the size of tap water, so the water can easily and quickly penetrate into the cells. This is how ionized water is able to deeply hydrate the body, much more than tap or bottled water can. One of the reasons people don't drink water is because it makes them feel bloated. This is because the larger water molecules of tap and bottled water cannot get into their cells, so it sloshes around in their stomach. This is one of the first differences people notice when they drink ionized water. They don't feel bloated. They also notice they drink a lot of water, which means their cells are crying out to be hydrated. One of the other things many people notice when they first drink ionized water is how quickly it cleans out their digestive system. This is because the water gets deeply into the cells and flushes out toxins and acidic waste and even undigested food that is accumulated. Clinical studies have also shown that ionized water promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria in the intestines. This is very important because an unhealthy gut is one of the major factors for obesity, weakening of the immune system, and many illnesses. Microclustering is also why ionized water is the best delivery system for taking supplements. Since tap and bottled water cannot effectively penetrate into the cells, only a small percentage of the nutrients actually get absorbed. With ionized water, the smaller molecules are able to draw out the nutrients and deliver them directly into the cells. One thing many people aren't aware of is that if your pH drops below 5.8, you cannot absorb vitamins A, B, E, F, and K, nor can you absorb valuable minerals like sulfur, potassium, calcium, chromium, iron, or zinc, no matter how much of these you take. This is another example of something people do in order to be healthy, but aren't aware that they're not getting the benefits from their efforts. Being well hydrated is the first step in getting our cells healthy.
The next root cause that ionized water addresses is oxidation. We see the effects of oxidation when we cut an apple and it turns brown, or the chrome on our car rusts. When oxidation occurs in our cells, it causes the degeneration of our bones and organs and leads to premature aging, disease, and even death. Oxidation is caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. In order to become stable, they steal their missing electron from our healthy tissues. When they are on the attack, they don't just kill cells, which wouldn't be so bad because the body can regenerate new cells. The problem is that free radicals damage the DNA. This can cause cells to become mutated and grow abnormally, and reproduce abnormally and very quickly like cancer cells do. James F. Balch, MD, an author of The Super Antioxidants, Why It Will Change the Face of Healthcare in the 21st Century, says, "These diseases that we doctors still attribute to your age really have little to do with time, but are directly related to the accumulation of free radical damage in the cells of your body. Age is related to time only by the rate at which oxidative stress is taking its toll on your body. Oxidation is a much bigger problem now than it ever has been, because our modern world is so saturated with positive ions. We absorb these every day from the air, food, and water. In fact, every cell in our body is bombarded by approximately 10,000 free radical hits a day, so it's crucial that we protect ourselves from their destructive effects. The way free radicals are neutralized is very simple. Introduce an abundance of negative ions into our system. Negative ions have an extra electron, which they donate to free radicals. Now the free radicals, they have the electron they were missing, so they are stable and do not have to attack our healthy cells. In this way, negative ions restore the proper electrical balance in our cells and protect them from harm. Negative ions are abundant in clean, natural environments, especially where there's moving water, like crashing waves and waterfalls. Niagara Falls is one of the highest producers of negative ions on the entire planet. The reason the air is so clean and sparkling after a rainstorm is because the air is filled with negative ions. Even when we take a shower, it's the negative ions generated by the moving water that make us feel refreshed and energized. We might find ourselves singing in the shower. Negative ions are nature's rejuvenating energy. They decrease fatigue and reduce allergies and migraines. They strengthen the immune system, improve metabolism, improve asthma and other respiratory conditions, and they lower blood pressure. However, occasionally breathing in the negative ions in those natural environments is not enough to counteract the constant assault of free radicals. This is why we hear about antioxidants so much. Dr. Richard Cutler, the director of anti-aging research at the National Institute of Health, states, "The amount of antioxidants you maintain in your body is directly proportional to how long you will live." So people eat foods that are rich in antioxidants and take antioxidant supplements. However, food and supplements are complex compounds that have to be digested before they are useful to the body. And the process of digestion creates more free radicals, which ironically uses up about 75% of the antioxidants contained in the food or supplement. So only about 25% of the antioxidants in food and supplements can actually be used by the body. Ionized water provides the body with a massive amount of negative ions, and they do not need to go through any digestive process, so the actual antioxidant net gain is much greater. Dr. Ray Kurzweil, who received scores of national and international awards, including the National Medal of Technology, the nation's highest honor in technology and invention of the year from MIT, explains, "The negative ions in alkaline water from an electrolysis machine are a rich source of electrons that can be donated to these free radicals in the body, neutralizing them and stopping them from damaging healthy tissues." Dr. Bob McCauley, a naturopathic doctor, certified nutritional consultant and master herbalist, and author of The Miraculous Properties of Ionized Water, the definitive guide to the world's healthiest substance, explains, "It is miraculous that normal tap water can be instantly transformed into a strong antioxidant. Running tap water through a water ionizer creates a miracle that can help put your body into a position of health you never imagined you could achieve. It's alive with electrons, which our bodies crave. It's a liquid antioxidant, which is why we can call it the best substance that we can ever put into our bodies. The struggle for health is the effort to get enough negative ions into the body."
The next root cause of disease is acidosis, which means our bodies are too acidic. Every living cell in the body creates acidic waste products. The nutrients from our food are delivered to each cell, and they burn with oxygen to provide energy for us to live. The burned nutrients are the waste products. This is just normal metabolic function. The problem is that we are now taking in so much acid, it has become too much for our bodies to deal with. One of the biggest reasons is the standard American diet, which is the most acidic diet our country has ever seen. Meat, cheese, sugar, white flour, and alcohol are all very acidic. Of course, so is soda. Coca-Cola is almost as acidic as battery acid. The active ingredient in Coke is phosphoric acid, which has a pH of 2.8. The acidity of soda and other foods is one of the reasons for the huge increase in obesity. Our bodies store acid in our body fat because we simply can't eliminate the huge amount of acid we are now taking in. The heart is one of the most alkaline-dependent organs in the body. Acid wastes alter proper heartbeat. They rob the blood of proper oxygenation, which causes degeneration of the heart. An alkaline system creates an ideal heart function. Dr. Linda Frazzetto, an acid-alkaline researcher, explains, "Long-term acidity corrodes our tissues, veins, and arteries. It interrupts all cellular activity from the beating of the heart to the way we think. The acidic body becomes a breeding ground for germs, fungus, and viruses. They consume the food we eat and leave us more acid waste excrements. Acidity coagulates blood and clogs up the capillaries. Overacidity interferes with life itself, leading to virtually all sickness and disease, including heart attacks and cancer, premature aging, and obesity." Felicia Drury Clement, author of The Acid-Alkaline Balanced Diet, says, "It took me 20 years of researching, writing, and consulting in the field of alternative health before I found the common denominator in all degenerative diseases: acidic wastes. Wherever these wastes accumulate in the body, they cause nearby organs to malfunction and degenerate. Ionized water directly addresses the problem of overacidity in two ways. Because the water penetrates into the cell so effectively, it flushes out toxins and acidic waste and prevents them from accumulating and damaging cells. And the high pH level of the water alkalinizes the body. Dr. Theodore Berruti, who wrote Alkalize or Die: Superior Health Through Proper Alkaline Acid Balance, states, "I have administered over 5,000 gallons of this water for about every health situation imaginable. The countless names attached to illness do not really matter. What does matter is that they all come from the same root cause: too much tissue acid waste in the body." The following is from Dr. John Colbert, who is board-certified MD and New York Times best-selling author of 7 Pillars of Health. He said, "I have recommended alkaline hexagonal water to even my youngest patients. In 2005, a 10-year-old and her parents came to my office in South Carolina. The girl had crippling juvenile rheumatoid arthritis and weighed only 52 pounds. Her hands were swollen like mitts, and her knees were swollen as large as softballs. I put her on hexagonal alkaline water, 1 to 2 quarts a day. A week and a half later, she was pain-free, and her swelling was significantly diminished. When she arrived, she was wheelchair-bound, but she was actually able to walk without pain after only a week and a half of drinking hexagonal alkaline water. Her parents were ecstatic. We raised the pH of her tissues. After a month, her hands were almost normal size. I have had countless numbers of patients with painful osteoarthritis on many different medications for arthritis. Many have been pain-free within a couple of months after consuming adequate amounts of alkaline water and alkaline foods. As a result, many are able to go off their medications."
The fourth root cause that ionized water addresses is the issue of a lack of oxygen in the blood. In fact, insufficient oxygen was discovered as an underlying cause of cancer. In 1931, Dr. Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize in Medicine when he demonstrated that all forms of cancer have 2 basic conditions: overacidity, which I just explained, and lack of oxygen in our cells. He said, "All normal cells have an absolute requirement for oxygen, but cancer cells can live without oxygen, a rule without exception. Deprive a cell 35% of its oxygen for 48 hours and it may become cancerous." Dr. Paavo Airola, author of Are You Confused?, said insufficient supply of oxygen to the tissues is considered a major cause of our worst diseases. Many scientists believe that a periodic lack of oxygen must be held responsible for the formation of cancer cells. Dr. Harry Goldblatt, in the Journal of Experimental Medicine, states, "Lack of oxygen clearly plays a major role in causing cells to become cancerous." Here is an audio clip of a blood test conducted by a doctor that shows how ionized water corrects this problem and increases the level of oxygen in the blood.
Let us see how this type of water affects human blood. The doctor is drawing blood from a patient's finger. Using a special microscope, we shall be able to see the condition of her body from this drop.
These are red blood cells, and they've lost their electrical charge, so they're all stuck together in a formation called a rouleau. Here's a huge symplast. Symplasts are associated with heart disease and arthritis and lung disease and many other conditions that could be coming in the future.
The doctor asks the patient to drink a small amount of structurized water. After 12 minutes, the doctor again draws blood from the patient and studies it.
So you can see that the cells then become buoyant, they become slippery, and they have their electrical charge, so they repel each other. That allows them to carry oxygen, and it means that we're changing the pH of the blood back to an aerobic environment rather than an anaerobic environment. I think that's utterly amazing that just drinking water could do that.
If you want to watch the video online, it's pretty amazing to see what happens under the microscope. Just Google blood test video on ionized water.
Together, these four primary health issues contribute to a perfect storm for premature aging and disease to develop in our cells. As Dr. Batmangelid succinctly put it, it is chronic dehydration along with over-acidification and oxidation that painfully and prematurely kills. The problem is that we're not aware of these destructive effects until we have some kind of dis-ease or pain, or we suddenly feel very sick. Right now, we don't know how much oxidation is happening, how much our cells are rusting, or how much acid waste is accumulating in our cells. The blood test you heard illustrates this. The patient had no idea their red blood cells had lost their electrical charge, and that was creating conditions that can lead to heart disease, arthritis, lung disease, and other serious illnesses. Often we hear about someone who seemed to be in perfectly good health, suddenly has a heart attack, or someone goes to their doctor for an annual checkup and is told the devastating news they have cancer. But heart attacks and cancer don't just suddenly happen. They are the result of the long-term effects these root causes have in the cells of our body. This is why prevention is so important, and this is why so many health professionals are urging us to drink ionized water every day to address these underlying causes before they develop into a serious illness or debilitating condition. One of the amazing things about the body is that it is constantly replacing old cells with new ones at the rate of millions per second. As you're listening to this CD, hundreds of millions of your cells have died and have been replaced by new cells. This means that unhealthy cells can be restored to healthy cells and can be maintained as healthy cells. We just need to give the body what it needs. And water is the most important raw material nature has provided for health and for life itself. This is why ionized water has been called the best substance we could ever put in our bodies. Trying to be healthy can be very confusing. There are so many different approaches to health, and we're all different and need different things. What's the best food for me to eat? What's the best exercise for me? What are the best supplements for me to take? But whatever kind of health program we choose, the one thing that is essential for all of us is water, much more than most of us have been aware. The quality of the water we drink is crucial for our health. Unfortunately, the water we've been drinking has become so contaminated and the molecular structure has become so distorted, it is not only not supportive of health, but is actually a major source of health problems. Because of the discoveries that have been made about the properties of hexagonal water, we now know what water, in its natural state, does to keep the trillions of cells that make up our bodies alive and healthy. As Dr. David Dyer, health and cancer coach, says, if someone were to ask me, what is the one thing I can do to have better health? The answer would be very simple. Start drinking alkalized and ionized water. When you drink ionized water, you're bathing and feeding the cells. In 5 years or less, ionizers will not only be an option, but a necessary component in everyday living. Thank you for listening. This CD was created with the wish that this information will be of benefit to you and your loved ones. If you would like to learn about the ionization technologies that are available and sample ionized water for free, call the person who gave you this CD. Continue listening to learn how you can use ionized water for a variety of health issues, for food preparation and cooking, for cleaning and disinfecting instead of using chemical cleaners, and for your pets.
In addition to the benefits of drinking ionized water, A top-quality ionizer can produce different pH levels that can be used in a variety of beneficial ways. 2.5 pH is too acidic to drink, but it is remarkably effective for disinfecting and killing bacteria. In less than a minute, 2.5 pH kills 99.99% of E. coli, Salmonella, Staph, and many other harmful bacteria. It is used throughout the food industry in Japan and a growing number of restaurants in America to prevent food poisoning, sanitize countertops, knives, and cutting boards, and for cleaning tables instead of using chemical cleaners. In an article in the LA Times about how the Sheraton Hotel in Santa Monica is using ionized water, it stated, Jolene Fertag, a food scientist and associate professor at the University of Minnesota, installed an electrolysis unit in her laboratory and began researching the technology. She found that the acid water killed E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, and other nasty pathogens. Yet it was gentle enough to soothe her children's sunburns and acne. She's now encouraging food processors to take a look at electrolyzed water to help combat the disease outbreaks that have roiled the industry. She said, "This sounds too good to be true, but it's only a matter of time before this becomes mainstream." 2.5 pH is such a powerful antibacterial, it is used in hospitals in Japan to disinfect operating rooms and surgical equipment. It has also been used very successfully in hospitals in Japan to treat children with atopic dermatitis. It has also been very effective used topically for eczema, other skin conditions, and hair and scalp conditions as well. Parents use 2.5 to clean their baby's room and toys instead of toxic chemical cleaners. It is also excellent for oral health, which is why dentists are starting to use ionized water in their practice. Using ionized water for cleaning and disinfecting provides another important health benefit. It reduces our exposure to toxins from the chemical cleaning products we use in our homes. At the other end of the spectrum is 11.5 pH, which is too alkaline to drink but has some very beneficial uses. When we rinse food with tap water, we think we're cleaning the food, but actually the food absorbs chlorine and other contaminants that are in the water. With 11.5 ionized water, because the water is so alkaline and the molecules are so small, the water can actually emulsify oil. This means it can rinse the oil-based herbicides and pesticides off the fruits and vegetables, making them clean and safe to eat. The person who gave you this CD can give you a demonstration of how this actually works. 11.5 water is so effective for cutting through grease, you can clean your oven with it, and you can use it in your washing machine instead of laundry detergent. Ionized water is also great for animals, since they are subject to the same kinds of problems of dehydration, overacidity, and oxidation. Many veterinarians are now using ionized water and seeing excellent results for kidney malfunctions, arthritis, and other conditions. Having a water ionizer in your home is also very economical. A top-quality ionizer can last 15 to 20 years or longer. Since ionized water comes from the tap, it only costs pennies. People who switch from bottled water to ionized water save thousands of dollars, and there are significant savings from eliminating the need for chemical household cleaners and laundry detergent.